The massive alien ship moved through space like a dark shadow against the stars. Captain Vextar stood on the bridge of the stellar dawn, watching the small blue planet grow larger on his view screen. Earth looked peaceful from this distance. White clouds swirled over green and brown continents. The oceans sparkled in the light of the yellow sun. "Report," Vextar said to his crew. Science Officer Dalmore checked his instruments. "The planet shows signs of a Class 3 civilization, Captain. They have basic nuclear power and simple space technology. Their communications use primitive radio, waves, and early digital systems." "Any weapons?" Vextar asked. "Nothing that could threaten us, sir. They have crude missiles and chemical explosives. Some orbital satellites, but they appear to be for communications only." Vextar nodded. This was exactly what the Galactic Council had told him to expect. Earth was a young world with a species that had barely learned to leave their own planet. The humans would be easy to manage once they joined the Council. Most species were grateful for the protection and technology that membership provided. "Take us to the outer edge of their system," Vextar ordered. "We will observe them for a few days before making contact." On Earth, Commander Jake Morrison sat in the control room of the North American Deep Space Monitoring Station. The facility was hidden inside a mountain in Colorado. To anyone looking from outside, it appeared to be a simple weather research station. The real equipment was buried deep underground. "Sir, we have a contact," said Lieutenant Ryan Torres from his position at the communications console. "Large vessel, unknown design, moving toward Earth from the outer system." Jake leaned forward in his chair. "How large?" "About 2 kilometers. Long, sir, it's not like anything in our databases." Jake felt his heart beat faster. After 50 years of watching the skies, this was the moment they had all been preparing for. "Send word to command. Tell them we have visitors." Dr. Lisa Campbell arrived at the facility within 6 hours. She was Earth's best expert on alien languages and cultures, even though she had never actually met an alien before. Her knowledge came from decades of study and preparation for this exact situation. "What do we know about them?" she asked Jake as they walked through the underground corridors. "They're big, they're advanced, and they're taking their time," Jake replied. "The ship has been scanning our planet for the last 12 hours. They seem to be studying us." "That's actually a good sign," Lisa said. "If they wanted to destroy us, they would have done it already." In another part of the facility, Dr. Katie Miller and engineer Sam Brooks worked side by side in the Technical Analysis Center. They were trying to understand the alien ship's technology by studying the energy patterns it gave off. "Look at this," Katie said, pointing to her computer screen. "Their power systems are incredibly advanced, but they're also wasteful. They're using 10 times more energy than they need to for basic ship functions." Sam frowned as he looked at the data. "Either they have unlimited power, or they don't know how to use it efficiently." "There's something else," Katie continued. "Their sensors are powerful, but they're only looking at the surface level. They're not trying to penetrate our underground facilities or scan for hidden installations. Maybe they don't think we're smart enough to hide anything," Sam suggested. Above them, the alien ship continued its careful survey of Earth. Captain Vexatar was pleased with what he saw. The humans had built cities and roads, developed agriculture and industry. They had even put a few primitive stations in orbit around their planet. But everything he observed confirmed his expectations. This was a young civilization that would benefit greatly from Galactic Council guidance. "Begin communications protocol," Vextar ordered. The first message from the aliens came as a series of mathematical equations broadcast on multiple radio frequencies. Dr. Lisa Campbell and her team worked for hours to decode the meaning. The mathematics was universal, but the concepts behind them were complex. "They're trying to establish a common language," Lisa explained to Jake. "This is standard first contact procedure according to every theory we've developed." "Can you respond?" Jake asked. "Yes, but we need to be careful about what we reveal. We want to appear interested but not too advanced." Lisa sent back a simple mathematical response that showed humans understood basic concepts but kept the complexity low. She made sure the message would make Earth appear to be exactly the kind of primitive civilization the aliens expected to find. Over the next 2 days, communications became more sophisticated. The aliens introduced themselves as the Zephyrians, members of the Galactic Council. They explained that they had come to Earth to offer humanity a chance to join their organization. Captain Vextar was surprised by how quickly the humans learned to communicate. Their language skills were better than he had expected from a Class 3 species, but their questions were simple and their concerns were basic. They wanted to know if the Zephyrians came in peace, if they planned to harm humans, and what membership in the Galactic Council would mean for Earth. "They are like children," Vextar told his crew, "curious and eager to learn, but completely dependent on others for protection and guidance." What Captain Vextar did not know was that every communication was being analyzed by teams of Earth's best scientists and military strategists. Hidden facilities around the world worked day and night to understand Zephyrian technology and intentions. President Helen Carter called an emergency meeting of the Earth Defense Council. The meeting took place in a bunker deep beneath Washington, D.C. The bunker had been built decades ago, when Earth's governments first agreed to work together to prepare for alien contact. "What are we dealing with?" President Carter asked General Paul Anderson. "They're advanced, but not as advanced as we feared," the general replied. "Their ship is powerful, but Dr. Miller's analysis suggests we could match their capabilities if necessary." "Do they seem hostile?" asked Secretary Carol Bennett. "Not openly," Jake Morrison replied via secure video link. "But their attitude suggests they see us as primitives who need to be managed rather than equals who should be respected." Dr. Lisa Campbell joined the conversation from Colorado. Based on their communications, the Galactic Council appears to be a hierarchical organization. Older, more advanced species control younger ones. They're offering us protection and technology, but they expect submission in return. President Carter considered this information carefully. Earth's leaders had spent decades debating how to handle first contact. They had developed multiple plans for different scenarios. This situation called for Plan 7. Appear weak while gathering intelligence. Continue communications, President Carter ordered. Make them think we're impressed by their technology and grateful for their offer. We need to learn everything, weaken about their capabilities and intentions before we decide how to respond. Back on the Stellar Dawn, Captain Vextar was growing confident about the mission's success. The humans seemed eager to please and quick to accept Zephyrian superiority. Their leaders were already discussing terms for joining the Galactic Council. "Prepare a landing party," Vextar told his crew. "We will establish a base of operations on their planet and begin the integration process." First Officer Zaraketh hesitated. "Sir, there are some unusual readings from the planet's surface. Our sensors detect energy patterns that don't match their apparent technology level." "Explain," Vextar said. "The patterns suggest more sophisticated power generation and distribution systems than we would expect from a Class 3 civilization. But when we focus our sensors on the sources, the readings disappear." Vextar dismissed the concern with a wave of his hand. "Sensor ghosts. This star system has unusual electromagnetic properties. Don't let it distract you from our mission." But Zaraketh was not convinced. She continued monitoring the strange readings, unaware that she was detecting the carefully shielded energy signatures of Earth's hidden defense systems. On Earth, the final preparations were being made. Dr. Tony Wright, director of the most classified project in human history, gave his team their final instructions. "Remember, everything depends on maintaining the illusion," he told them. "They must continue to believe we are exactly what we appear to be until we are ready to show them the truth." The stage was set for humanity's greatest performance, and The Zephyrians had no idea they were about to become the audience for a show that would change everything they thought they knew about Earth. Captain Vex's tar stood before the large view screen on his bridge, studying the planet below. 3 days had passed since first contact, and Earth continued to puzzle him. The humans responded to communications quickly and seemed to understand complex concepts, but their technology remained stubbornly primitive in his scans. Navigation Officer Kelrin, what do you make of these energy readings? Vextar asked, pointing to several data streams on his command console. Kelrin studied the information carefully. Sir, the readings are strange. We detect massive power generation in several locations across the planet. But when we try to scan those areas directly, our instruments show only simple industrial facilities and population centers. Could their buildings be interfering with our sensors? Vextar wondered. Unlikely, sir. Our scanning technology can penetrate most known materials. It's almost as if something is actively blocking our deeper scans. Science Officer Dalmore joined the conversation. Captain, I've been analyzing their communication satellites. The basic design is primitive, but some of the internal components are surprisingly sophisticated. The power efficiency is much higher than it should be for their apparent technology. Level. Vextar frowned. In his 40 years of service to the Galactic Council, he had surveyed dozens of worlds. Usually, a civilization's capabilities were easy to assess. But Earth kept showing him contradictions that didn't make sense. On Earth, President Helen Carter sat in the secure conference room beneath the White House. Around the table sat the most important people in human government and military leadership. The room was protected by multiple layers of security that would prevent any alien technology from listening to their conversations. Report on alien capabilities, President Carter said to General Paul Anderson. Based on Dr. Miller's analysis, their ship is powerful but not invincible, the general replied. Their weapon systems appear to be energy-based, probably particle. Beams or focused plasma, their shields are strong but operate on predictable frequencies. What about their numbers? Asked Secretary Carol Bennett. Admiral Frank Miller, the head of Earth's Secret Space Defense Force, answered. We estimate about 200 beings on board their ship. Standard crew size for a vessel that large, according to our models. Dr. Lisa Campbell joined the meeting via secure video link from Colorado. I've learned more about their culture through our communications. The Galactic Council is definitely a hierarchical system. Older species control younger ones through a combination of protection and dependence. They provide technology and defense, but they also control trade, expansion, and political development. So we would become their subjects, not their equals, President Carter observed. Exactly. And based on their communications, they don't see any alternative. In their experience, young civilizations are always weak and need guidance. President Carter looked around the table at her advisors. Recommendations? Dr. Tony Wright, whose existence was known to only a handful of people on Earth, spoke for the first time in the meeting. Continued the deception. We've spent 50 years preparing for this moment. Our hidden installations are ready, our defense fleet is positioned, and our technology is ready to deploy. But we need more intelligence about their military doctrine and weaknesses. How much longer can we maintain the illusion? Admiral Miller asked. As long as necessary, Wright replied. They see what they expect to see. A primitive civilization that builds crude rockets and struggles with basic space travel. They have no reason to suspect that we've been watching them and preparing for their arrival since before they entered our solar system. Back on the stellar dawn, First Officer Zara Keth was becoming more concerned about the anomalous readings from Earth. She had served on survey missions before, and she had never encountered a planet that seemed to actively resist deep scanning. Captain, she said, approaching Vextar at his command station, I request permission to conduct more detailed scans of the human population centers. For what purpose? Vextar asked. The energy patterns we're detecting don't match their apparent industrial capacity. Either our sensors are malfunctioning, or the humans are more advanced than they appear. Vextar considered this. Very well. But be discreet. We don't want to alarm them before we're ready to establish our presence on their world. Zaraketh nodded and returned to her station. She began focusing the ship's most powerful sensors on major human cities, trying to penetrate whatever was blocking their scans. In the hidden command center beneath New York City, Lieutenant Commander Beth Rodriguez monitored alien scanning attempts from her position at the Defense Coordination Console. Around her, dozens of technicians tracked every movement of the alien ship. "They're trying to scan deeper," she reported to her commanding officer, "focusing on population centers and industrial areas." "Deflection status?" asked Colonel Danny Murphy. "All masking systems are operating at full efficiency. They're seeing exactly what we want them to see." The masking systems were one of humanity's greatest achievements. Developed over 30 years of secret research, they could make advanced installations appear to be simple buildings, hide energy signatures, and even create false readings that supported the illusion of primitive technology. "Any indication they suspect deception?" Colonel Murphy asked. "Not yet, sir. But they're persistent. If they keep trying, they might eventually find a way through our defenses. Then we need to give them something else to think about." Dr. Lisa. Campbell received new instructions from Command: increase communication frequency and show more interest in Galactic Council membership. The goal was to distract the aliens from their scanning efforts by making them focus on diplomatic negotiations. Over the next day, Lisa sent multiple messages expressing humanity's excitement about joining the galactic community. She asked detailed questions about council membership, trade opportunities, and the benefits of advanced technology. To the aliens, it would appear that humanity was eager to accept their guidance and protection. Captain Vextar was pleased by the human response. The communications confirmed his assessment that Earth was ready for integration into the Council. The humans seemed appropriately grateful for the opportunity and suitably impressed by Zephyrian technology. "Prepare for Phase 2, Vextar ordered his crew. "We will demonstrate our capabilities to ensure human cooperation, then establish our administrative presence on their world." But Science Officer Dalmore had made a disturbing discovery. While analyzing human entertainment broadcasts, he had come across something that troubled him greatly. "Captain," Dalmore said, approaching Vextar with a datapad in his hands, "I've been studying human entertainment media to better understand their culture." "And?" Vextar asked. "Their fictional stories show an unusual understanding of warfare and strategy. They create complex scenarios involving space combat, planetary defense, and tactical operations that rival the sophistication of actual Galactic Council military planning." Vextar took the datapad and scrolled through Dalmore's analysis. The human entertainment showed battles between massive fleets, defensive strategies for protecting planets, and weapons technology that was remarkably similar to actual galactic military hardware. "It's just imagination," Vextar said, returning the "This primitive species often dream about capabilities they don't possess. But, sir, some of the tactical concepts they portray are quite advanced. They understand principles of space combat that most council species took centuries to develop." "Dalmore, you're overthinking this. Humans are storytellers. They create fantasies about power because they lack real power. This is normal behavior for a Class 3 civilization." But Dalmore was not convinced. He continued studying human media, finding more examples of sophisticated military thinking embedded in their entertainment. The humans seemed to understand concepts like fleet coordination, orbital bombardment, electronic warfare, and strategic deception at a level that suggested real knowledge rather than pure imagination. On Earth, engineer Sam Brooks worked with his team to make final adjustments to the hidden defense systems. The alien ship was exactly where they had expected it to be, following standard survey protocols that Earth's strategists had studied for decades. "Weapon platforms are fully charged and ready," reported technician Alex Thompson. "Stealth fleet," is in position, added communications specialist Carol Davis. All ships are maintaining electronic silence and showing as space debris on alien sensors. Orbital defense grid is online, said system operator Rick Johnson. We can create a defensive barrier around Earth within 60 seconds of receiving the activation order. Sam nodded, checking the final systems on his list. Everything was ready. Earth's true defensive capabilities remained completely hidden from the aliens, who continued to see only a primitive world with basic technology. Dr. Katie Miller had completed her analysis of the alien ship's vulnerabilities. Working with a team of Earth's best physicists and engineers, she had identified several critical weaknesses in Zephyrian technology. Their shield system operates on a narrow frequency band, she explained to Admiral Miller during a secure briefing. If we can generate precise electromagnetic pulses at the right frequency, we can create harmonic resonance that will overload their defensive systems. How precise do the pulses need to be? Admiral Miller asked. Very precise, but we have 12 orbital platforms that see the message from the alien ship arrived at Earth's communication center at exactly 14:30 GMT. Dr. Lisa Campbell read it 3 times before she fully understood what the aliens were planning to do. They want to destroy one of our facilities as a demonstration, she told Commander Jake Morrison over the secure communication link. Which facility? Jake asked. They're letting us choose. They say it should be something old and no longer important to our civilization. They want to show us their weapon systems so we understand the power we'll have access to as council members. Jake was quiet for several seconds. Contact command immediately. Tell them the aliens are moving to Phase 2 ahead of schedule. Within an hour, President Helen Carter was in the secure conference room with her top advisors. The mood in the room was tense but not panicked. They had planned for this exact scenario. Recommendations? President Carter asked. Dr. Tony Wright opened a folder marked with the highest security classification. We activate Site 17. It was built specifically for this purpose 15 years ago. Remind me about Site 17, the president said. It appears to be an old steel manufacturing plant in Pennsylvania, Wright explained. From the outside, it looks like it's been abandoned for 20 years, but it's actually filled with holographic projectors, sensor arrays, and recording equipment. When they destroy it, we'll get detailed information about their weapon systems. Admiral Frank Miller added, we'll also use the demonstration to activate Protocol 7. Every hidden installation on Earth will go to full readiness, and our stealth fleet will move to attack positions. Are we really going to attack them? Secretary Carol Bennett asked. Not immediately, President Carter replied, but we need to be ready to respond if they prove hostile after their demonstration. General Paul Anderson looked concerned. What? If their demonstration is more destructive than they claim? What if they decide to destroy something important? They won't, Dr. Lisa Campbell said via video link. Their communications show they want us as willing subjects, not enemies. Destroying something valuable would turn us against them, which defeats their purpose. And if you're wrong? The general asked. Then we activate all systems immediately and show them what Earth is really capable of, Admiral Miller replied. Back on the Stellar Dawn, Captain Vextar was pleased with the human response. The Earth leaders had agreed to the demonstration and had provided coordinates for an abandoned manufacturing facility that would serve as a perfect target. The facility is located in what the humans call Pennsylvania, reported Navigation Officer Kelrin. It appears to have been used for metal production but has been inactive for many years. Perfect, Vextar said. A clean demonstration that shows our power without causing significant damage to their civilization. Science Officer Dalmore studied the target coordinates on his instruments. Sir, the facility shows some unusual energy readings. What kind of readings? Vextar asked. Very faint power signatures, as if some systems are still active despite the facility being abandoned. First Officer Zaraketh joined the conversation. Could it be residual energy from the old manufacturing equipment? Possibly, Dalmore replied. But the patterns are more regular than I would expect from inactive machinery. Captain Vextar dismissed the concern. Likely some security systems, or maintenance equipment that the humans forgot to shut down when they abandoned the facility. Proceed with the demonstration as planned. On Earth, the final preparations were being made at sites around the world. Site 17 in Pennsylvania looked exactly like what the aliens expected. An old factory with broken windows, rusted equipment, and weeds growing in the parking lot. But beneath the surface, sophisticated systems waited to record every detail of the alien attack. Lieutenant Commander Beth Rodriguez coordinated the global response from her command center beneath New York. All defense platforms report ready status, she announced to her team. Stealth fleet is in position and maintaining communication silence, reported Colonel Danny Murphy from the orbital command station. Ground installations are standing by for activation, added Major Susan Clark from the hidden facility beneath Denver. Engineer Sam Brooks made final adjustments to the electromagnetic pulse generators that Dr. Katie Miller had designed. 12 platforms hidden in Earth's orbital infrastructure were ready to create the harmonic resonance that would disable alien shields. Frequency generators are synchronized and ready, Sam reported. We can initiate the pulse sequence within 30 seconds of receiving the order. Dr. Katie Miller monitored the alien ship from her analysis station in Colorado. Their weapon systems are charging, she announced. Based on the energy patterns, they're preparing to fire some kind of particle beam. How long until they're ready to fire? Asked Jake Morrison. Approximately 10 minutes based on the rate of energy accumulation. Jake activated the global communication system that connected all of Earth's hidden installations. All stations, this is Morrison, Alien. Demonstration begins in 10 minutes. All units stand by for Protocol 7 activation. Around the world, men and women who had trained for this moment their entire careers took their positions at control stations hidden beneath cities, mountains, and ocean floors. The most sophisticated military technology in human history prepared to reveal itself for the first time. Captain Vextar stood on his bridge, watching the final preparations for the demonstration. His crew moved with practiced efficiency, charging the ship's main particle cannon and targeting the coordinates provided by the humans. "Weapons report ready, Captain," announced Weapons Officer Thanecore. "Communications are open on all human frequencies," reported the communications officer. "They will be able to observe our demonstration clearly." "Excellent," Vextar said. "Begin recording for transmission to the Galactic Council. They will want to see how smoothly Earth's integration proceeds." What Captain Vextar did not know was that he was about to become the star of a very different kind of recording. Every sensor array on Earth was focused on his ship, ready to analyze his weapons, shields, and tactical responses with precision that would have amazed him. The alien particle beam fired at exactly 1547 GMT. The weapon struck Site 17. With devastating accuracy, completely vaporizing the abandoned factory in a burst of brilliant energy. To any observer, it appeared to be a flawless demonstration of advanced technology. But in hidden control centers around Earth, technicians recorded data that revealed everything about Zephyrian military capabilities. Dr. Katie Miller watched as her computers analyzed the weapon discharge, shield fluctuations, and energy patterns of the alien ship. "Incredible," she murmured, studying the incoming data. "Their weapons are powerful, but they're incredibly inefficient. They used 50 times more energy than necessary to destroy that facility." "What does that mean?" asked Sam Brooks, who was monitoring from his station. "It means they're either showing off, or they don't understand energy conservation as well as we thought," Katie replied. "Either way, it's a weakness we can exploit." Captain Vextar was satisfied with the demonstration. The human facility had been completely destroyed, leaving only a smoking crater where the factory had stood. He prepared to broadcast a message to Earth's leaders, explaining what they had just witnessed. But before he could begin his transmission, something unexpected happened. Energy readings across Earth's surface suddenly spiked to levels that should have been impossible for a Class 3 civilization. "Captain!" Navigation Officer Kelrin called out in alarm. I'm detecting massive power fluctuations across the entire planet. What kind of fluctuations? Vextar demanded. Energy output consistent with advanced shield generators, weapon systems, and propulsion technology. The readings are off the scale. Science Officer Dalmore frantically worked at his instruments. Sir, it's as if the entire planet just activated military systems we didn't know existed. First Officer Zara Keth studied her displays in disbelief. Captain, I'm detecting dozens of energy signatures in Earth's orbital space. They're not showing up on visual scanners, but the power readings suggest large vessels or installations. Captain, Vextar stared at the data streaming across his screens. In the space of 30 seconds, Earth had gone from appearing to be a primitive world to showing energy outputs that rivaled major Galactic Council military installations. How is this possible? He whispered. On Earth, Admiral Frank Miller gave the order that changed everything. All stations, this is Miller. Execute Protocol 7. Show them what we really are. Across the planet, systems that had been hidden for decades revealed themselves. Buildings that appeared to be offices and shopping centers reconfigured into fortress structures. Subway tunnels opened to reveal rapid transit systems for military equipment. Power plants that seemed to generate electricity for cities activated defensive shields that could withstand orbital bombardment. In Earth's orbital space, objects that the aliens had dismissed as communication satellites and space debris suddenly revealed their true nature. 50 warships that had been hiding in plain sight activated their systems and began moving into attack formations. Lieutenant Commander Beth Rodriguez coordinated the reveal from her command center. All SE. The moment Earth revealed its true capabilities, every assumption Captain Vextar had held about human civilization collapsed. His bridge displays showed energy readings that defied explanation. The primitive planet below him had transformed into a fortress, bristling with weapons and defensive systems. Captain, we're receiving targeting locks from multiple human installations, reported Weapons Officer Thanecore, his voice strained with barely controlled panic. How many? Vextar asked, though he dreaded the answer. 47 distinct targeting. Systems, sir, and that's only what our sensors can detect. Science Officer Dalmore looked up from his instruments with wide eyes. Sir, the electromagnetic pulse generators they've activated are creating interference patterns in our shield matrix. If they coordinate their output, they could destabilize our entire defensive grid. Captain Vextar had commanded starships for 4 decades. He had participated in Council military operations across the galaxy, but he had never faced an enemy that could threaten his vessel so completely while remaining almost entirely hidden until the moment they chose to reveal themselves. On Earth, Admiral Frank Miller stood in the primary command center watching displays that showed the alien ship's desperate attempts to understand their situation. Every movement the Stellar Dawn made was tracked by dozens of human sensors. Every energy fluctuation was analyzed and recorded. Status report, Admiral Miller ordered. All defense platforms are locked onto the alien vessel, reported Lieutenant. Commander Beth Rodriguez. We can disable their shields and weapons systems within 30 seconds if they make any aggressive moves. What about their attempt to scan our installations? Miller asked. Completely blocked, replied Major Susan Clark from the Sensor Countermeasures Station. They can see that we have military systems, but they can't determine their exact capabilities or locations. Dr. Katie Miller joined the communication link from her analysis station in Colorado. Admiral, I've completed my assessment of their vulnerability to our electromagnetic pulse weapons. If we fire a coordinated burst from all 12 orbital platforms, their shields will collapse completely. Understood. Hold fire unless they attempt to attack or flee. We want them alive and functional for negotiations. Commander Jake Morrison, coordinated with ground installations worldwide. Hidden facilities that had masqueraded as civilian buildings for decades now showed their true purpose. In major cities across Earth, structures that had appeared to be office buildings and shopping centers reconfigured themselves into military command posts and weapon platforms. New York reports full defensive activation, Morrison announced. London, Tokyo, Moscow, and Sydney have all activated their primary systems. The European orbital platform is online and tracking the alien vessel. What about the stealth fleet? Admiral Miller asked. All 50 ships are in position and ready. For combat operations, replied Colonel Danny Murphy from the Orbital Command Station. The aliens still can't detect most of our vessels, even though they know we're here. Captain Vextar struggled to understand how he had been so completely deceived. His sensors showed human ships that had been hiding as asteroids and space debris for weeks, possibly months. Energy signatures indicated weapon systems that matched or exceeded Galactic Council military technology. Engineering report, Vextar ordered. Our shields are stable, but barely, replied Engineering Officer Torvak. The humans are projecting electromagnetic interference that's causing harmonic resonance in our defensive matrix. If they increase the power output, our shields will fail. Can we break free of their targeting locks and retreat? No, sir. They have us surrounded, and their vessels are faster and more maneuverable than ours. Any attempt to flee would result in immediate engagement. First Officer Zaraketh studied the tactical displays, trying to find some advantage they could exploit. Captain, their coordination is perfect. 50 ships moving in formation without any detectable communication signals between them. Their command and control systems are more advanced than anything in the Galactic Council fleet. The reality of their situation was becoming clear to everyone on the bridge. The Stellar Dawn, one of the most advanced ships in the Zephyrian fleet, was completely outmatched by humans they had assumed were barely capable of space travel. Dr. Lisa Campbell received authorization from President Carter to begin the next phase of human contact protocol. Her role was about to change from appearing weak and grateful to demonstrating strength and capability. Captain Vextar, she transmitted to the alien ship, her tone still polite but no longer deferential. We appreciate your demonstration of Zephyrian weapon technology. As promised, we would now like to show you some examples of human military capabilities. That won't be necessary, Vextar replied quickly. Your point has been made clearly. Oh, but we insist, Lisa continued. After all, if we're going to discuss membership in your Galactic Council, you should understand exactly what kind of military assets Earth would bring to the organization. Before Captain Vextar could respond, the human demonstration began. It started with a simple display of coordination that left the alien crew speechless. All 50 human ships in the orbital area began moving in perfect synchronization, forming complex geometric patterns while maintaining their targeting locks on the Stellar Dawn. The precision required for such maneuvers was beyond anything the Zephyrians had ever witnessed. How are they coordinating without detectable communications? First Officer Zaraketh whispered in amazement. Quantum entanglement communication systems, Science Officer Dalmore replied, his voice filled with disbelief. They've mastered instantaneous coordination across interplanetary distances. But the human demonstration was just beginning. Dr. Katie Miller activated the electromagnetic pulse generators for a brief, controlled burst that lasted exactly 0.3 seconds. For that brief moment, every system on the Stellar Dawn flickered and destabilized. Shields dropped to 30% efficiency, weapon systems went offline, and navigation computers required emergency reboot procedures. Damage report! Captain Vextar shouted. No permanent damage, sir, Engineering Officer Torvak replied. But that was just a warning shot. If they had sustained that pulse for even 2 seconds, our shields would have collapsed completely. And sir, added Weapons Officer Thanecore, during the shield disruption, their targeting systems had clear shots at our reactor core, bridge, and weapon arrays. They could have destroyed us instantly. The message was unmistakable. Earth possessed the technology and tactical knowledge to disable the Stellar Dawn whenever they chose to do so. Admiral Frank Miller opened a direct communication channel to Captain Vextar. When his image appeared on the alien bridge screen, Vexitar was surprised to see a human who looked nothing like the primitive savage he had expected. Admiral Miller wore a crisp military uniform and projected an aura of competence and authority. That would have been impressive on any Galactic Council vessel. "Captain Vexitar," Admiral Miller said, "I am Admiral Frank Miller of the Earth Defense Force. I think it's time we had an honest conversation about the relationship between our species." "Admiral," Vexitar replied, trying to maintain some dignity, "despite his hopeless situation, I admit we may have underestimated human capabilities. Perhaps we can discuss revised terms for Earth's Council membership." "I'm afraid you still don't understand the situation," Admiral Miller continued. "Earth is not interested in joining your Galactic Council as a junior member seeking protection and guidance. Based on what we've learned about Council policies from your communications, we have no interest in becoming subjects of older species." "Then what do you want?" Vexitar asked. "We want an honest exchange of information about galactic civilization, trade opportunities, and diplomatic relations between equals. We're prepared to offer technological cooperation and military alliance, but only between species that respect each other as partners." Captain Vexitar looked around his bridge at crew members who were staring at him expectantly. Everything they had been taught about first contact protocols was useless in this situation. The Galactic Council had never encountered a species that revealed itself to be more advanced than their initial assessment suggested. "What happens to my ship and crew?" Vexitar asked. "That depends entirely on your choice," Admiral Miller replied. "You can return to the Galactic Council with whatever story you choose to tell about your encounter with Earth. Or you can remain here as our first diplomatic contact and help establish proper relations between humans and the galactic community. And if I choose to return and report Earth's true capabilities to the Council?" Admiral Miller smiled, and the expression was not entirely friendly. "Then the Council will learn that there's a new power in this region of space, one that's been watching and preparing for galactic contact for 50 years. They can choose to approach us as equals interested in mutual cooperation, or they can discover what happens when they try to treat Earth as another primitive world to be managed." Science Officer Dalmore had been quietly analyzing human military displays throughout the conversation. What he discovered made him interrupt his captain with urgent information. "Sir," Dalmore said, "I've been studying their defensive installations and fleet positions. Based on the coordination and technology they've demonstrated, I estimate Earth could defend against a full Gal Captain Vexitar walked through the corridors of the human vessel Defender, and everything he saw challenged his understanding of galactic civilization. The ship's technology was not just advanced, it was revolutionary. Energy conduits that should have required massive infrastructure were embedded in the walls like simple wiring. The artificial gravity was smoother and more efficient than anything on Council ships. Admiral Frank Miller led the tour personally, with Dr. Lisa Campbell and Engineer Sam Brooks providing explanations of human technology. Captain Vexitar had brought Science Officer Dalmore and First Officer Zaraketh, both of whom stared in amazement at every system they encountered. "This propulsion system," Dalmore said, studying the engine displays, "it's completely different from anything in Council. Databases. How do you achieve faster-than-light travel without dimensional fold generators?" "We don't fold space," Sam Brooks explained. "We manipulate quantum fields to create localized distortions in space-time. It's more energy efficient and doesn't create the dimensional stress fractures that fold technology produces." Zaraketh examined the ship's defensive systems with growing disbelief. "Admiral Miller, these shield generators are producing energy outputs that should require a power plant the size of a small moon. How is this possible?" "Zero-point energy extraction," Admiral Miller replied. "We learned to tap directly into quantum vacuum fluctuations about 20 years ago. Every human ship carries enough power generation capability to run a medium-sized planet." Captain Vexitar absorbed this information in stunned silence. The implications were staggering. If humans had mastered zero-point energy and quantum field propulsion, they possessed technology that was centuries ahead of anything the Galactic Council used. They reached the ship's conference room, where President Helen Carter waited via holographic projection. The quality of the image was so perfect that Vextar initially thought she was physically present. "Captain Vextar," President Carter said, "welcome aboard. I hope this meeting will help us establish a better understanding between our species." "Madam President," Vextar replied, "I must ask directly, how long has humanity possessed this level of technology?" "We've been working on it for 50 years, President Carter answered honestly. "Ever since we first detected extraterrestrial probes in our solar system." 50 years ago? Zaraketh interrupted. "But that would mean you detected our survey missions decades before we made official contact." "We detected 17 different species conducting surveys of Earth over the past 5 decades, Dr. Lisa Campbell explained. "We studied each one, learned about their technology and intentions, and prepared for eventual contact." Science Officer Dalmore looked shocked. 17 species. The Council database shows only 3 previous surveys of this system. The other 14 were conducting unauthorized intelligence gathering, Admiral Miller said. "Apparently, your Galactic Council doesn't have as much control over its members as it claims." Captain Vexistar was beginning to understand the true scope of human preparation and knowledge. "What did you learn from studying these surveys?" "We learned that galactic civilization is dominated by older species who control younger ones through a combination of technology sharing and resource dependence," President Carter replied. "We decided that Earth would not follow that path. We also learned that most galactic military technology is designed for fighting species with similar capabilities," added Sam Brooks. "Council weapons and defenses are optimized for conflicts between civilizations with comparable development levels. But human technology developed along completely different lines," Dr. Katie Miller said, joining the conference via holographic link. "Our solutions to engineering problems are unique, which gives us significant advantages in any potential conflict." Captain Vextar felt a chill as he realized what the humans were telling him. "You've been preparing for war with the Galactic Council for 50 years. "We've been preparing for any eventuality," President Carter corrected. "We hoped for peaceful contact, but we weren't going to leave our survival to chance." Admiral Miller activated a holographic display showing the local region of space. "Captain, what we're about to show you is information that will change how your species views this part of the galaxy." The display revealed a 3-dimensional map extending 50 light-years from Earth. It showed not only every star system in the region, but detailed information about planets, resources, trade routes, and military installations. "This is our complete intelligence database for the local galactic region," Admiral Miller explained. "We know the location of every Council military base, every trade depot, every colony world, and every resource extraction operation within 50 light-years of Earth." First Officer Zaraketh stared at the display in disbelief. "This intelligence data is more detailed than our own military databases. How did you gather this information?" "Very carefully, over many years." Dr. Lisa Campbell replied. "We sent stealth probes to every system in the region. We intercepted communications, studied trade patterns, and analyzed the movement of Council ships. And we've been preparing defensive positions throughout this region," Sam Brooks added. "If the Council decides to respond to Earth's emergence with military force, they'll discover that we've had decades to prepare." Captain Vexistar studied the holographic map, his military experience allowing him to understand the strategic implications. Human stealth technology had allowed them to create a comprehensive intelligence network that covered the entire local region. If this information was accurate, Earth knew more about Council operations than the Council knew about themselves. "What do you want from the Galactic Council?" Vexitar asked finally. "We want trade agreements, cultural exchange, and mutual Defense pacts with species that are interested in genuine cooperation, President Carter replied. We want to share technology and knowledge with civilizations that respect us as equals. And if the Council refuses to accept Earth as an equal partner? Vexatar asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Then we'll establish our own sphere of influence in this region, Admiral Miller said calmly. We've already identified 17 species within 30 light-years of Earth that are currently Council members but might prefer independence if they had protection from a power capable of matching Council military strength. The implications were staggering. Earth wasn't just offering to join galactic civilization. They were positioned to fundamentally alter the balance of power in the entire region. Science Officer Dalmore had been quietly analyzing the human ship's computer systems during the conference. Captain, he said, their information processing capabilities are extraordinary. They're running quantum computations that would require our largest installations, but they're doing it with equipment that fits in this single vessel. We've had to be efficient, Sam Brooks explained. When you're preparing to defend against an entire galactic civilization, you can't waste resources on inefficient technology. Captain Vextar made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. Admiral Miller, President Carter, I formally request permission to remain on Earth as the first Zephyrian ambassador to humanity. What about your ship and crew? Admiral Miller asked. They will return to Zephyrian space with a report that Earth contains no exploitable resources and poses no threat to Council interests, Vextar replied. It will be the last lie I tell on behalf of the old system. President Carter smiled. Ambassador Vexatar, Earth would be honored to host the first diplomatic representative from the Zephyrian people. Over the following weeks, Captain Vexatar worked with human scientists and engineers to establish communication protocols with other species in the region. His knowledge of Galactic Council operations, combined with Earth's intelligence network, created opportunities for contact with civilizations that had been isolated under Council control. Dr. Lisa Campbell led the effort to establish cultural exchange programs. We want to understand how different species have developed their civilizations, she explained. Human solutions to social and technological problems are just one approach among many. Engineer Sam Brooks collaborated with Zephyrian Science Officer Dalmore, who had chosen to remain on Earth rather than return to Council space. Their work on hybrid technologies produced innovations that exceeded the capabilities of either species working alone. Dr. Katie Miller established research partnerships with scientists from 6 different species within the first month of open contact. Every civilization approaches physics and engineering differently, she said. By sharing our different perspectives, we can solve problems that none of us could handle alone. 6 months after first contact, Admiral Frank Miller stood in the command center watching displays that showed a very different galaxy than the one Earth had prepared to face. Instead of a single dominant council controlling dozens of subject species, the local region now contained multiple independent civilizations working together through voluntary alliances. Status report on regional developments, Admiral Miller requested. 17 species have declared independence from Galactic Council control, reported Colonel Danny Murphy. 12 have requested membership in the